St. Francis Express Care clinics inside the Shakopee and Savage Hy-Vee stores are now open for patient care by appointment during convenient daytime, evening, and weekend hours. Appointments can be scheduled online or by phone. Visit stfrancis-shakopee.com/express care for details. Okay, good morning and welcome to this week's episode of the Shakopee Chamber Podcast. We at the Chamber brought you this podcast as our way of pivoting during COVID to make sure that we were keeping our members informed and also bringing them some interesting program at your convenience. So if you like what we're doing and you don't want to miss a single episode, you can subscribe to your favorite podcast channel. You can find us on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, and TuneIn. All you need to do is search for the Shakopee Chamber Podcast. We named it very simply, mostly because we couldn't come up with a clever name, but we find that as you're searching for it, you don't have to think too hard to get to us. So we are excited to thank our sponsor. This podcast is sponsored by our good friends at St. Francis Regional Medical Center, and they've been longtime supporters of the Chamber long before I arrived, for sure. And the growth I've seen in their organization in the last 10 years has been nothing short of phenomenal. In fact, they're redoing their emergency department as we speak, and they are truly an example of being committed to meeting the needs of the community they serve. Speaking of being committed to meeting the needs of the community they serve, our guest today is Jeff Hansen, the new executive director of the Scott, Carver, and Dakota County Community Action Partnership, known by most as the CAP Agency. Welcome, Jeff, to the podcast and to Shakopee.
Thank you, Angie. It's great to be here.
Well, we are glad to have you, and I'm grateful that you said yes when I called and asked if you would be our guest today. I'm sure you're a longtime subscriber in the 8 weeks we've been doing this, so
Yes, don't miss an episode.
That's the spirit, Jeff. So you know what? I'm going to just touch. I don't want to dive too deep into your personal life because I don't want to make
my skeletons.
Yeah, we're going to leave that closet closed. But I do, tell our listeners, where you grew up, your family. Tell us a little bit about Jeff the person before we drive into Jeff the executive director.
All right, I'll do the quick version. So I grew up. I'm a Minnesota bred born. People can hear that. A lot of times, my former job, I traveled out east quite a bit, and people pegged me as that Fargo guy, but they were close enough. So I grew up in New Brighton, Minnesota. Have been living in Elk River, though, since I've been married. So 26 years last Thursday.
Wow. Okay, happy anniversary.
Wedding anniversary. Yeah. So I got that going for me. It's great. I have two grown boys, 23 and 18-year-old.
Wow.
So they're doing their thing. One's still finishing school. One's just getting into it. He just graduated. So going to finish up there for a little bit. Hopefully relocate down in this neck of the woods in the near future. It takes a little time. So I'm married to a lovely woman named Kelly, and my 2 sons and 2 dogs, and we live up there, and we spend as much time as we can up at our property in Northwest Wisconsin. So that's really in a nutshell who I am.
Well, that's great. Well, we're glad you're here. Now, Jeff, you have a long history of work in the nonprofit world. So tell us a little bit about that background, none of which I'm sure prepared you to take on a new role in an agency like the CAP Agency and a month later be hit with a global pandemic. But tell us about your nonprofit background.
Yeah, I do think that my experience really was a good fit for this move to the CAP Agency. That's what excited me about it so much. Is I worked for over 20 years at a national nonprofit that grew over the years. They were focused on adolescent and child behavior and mental health. So a lot of residential type treatment programming, which grew into foster care and in mental health services, community based and things. So I worked with that. They were located in 5 different states. And so I did a lot of things with them. The last probably 8 to 10 years was community development, business development, and their legislative affairs, government relations type stuff. So it really helped us get a seat at the table legislatively in the different 5 states that we were in, and tried to make sure that when decisions were being made and money was being doled out, that we were aware of it and we could access that. A lot of community engagement type activities and working with our different satellite offices and facilities to help engage in the communities and that awareness part that's so important for nonprofits to make sure people understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, being as super transparent as possible. Yeah, exactly right. Because people want to, they just need to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
So I started that up. I worked on that. I was involved in merger and acquisitions. We grew from really probably about a $45 million agency to well over 100 in about 8 years through some mergers, acquisitions, organic growth as well. So a little bit of that. So it got big and things just changed. And so it was time to look for something else. And, and I saw the CAP agency. And I remember telling my wife, this just feels just so right. What they're doing, their mission. So it worked out great. And they decided to hire me. And so it's been wonderful. You're right. Did run into a little bit of a buzzsaw with the pandemic coming 2.5 weeks after I started.
Yeah. Welcome. Here's your initiation.
I'm not alone in that.
No, you are not. So, we're glad you're here, Jeff, and we're glad it sounds like your first few months here anyway, pandemic aside, have been good ones. I know you're certainly, I hear your name spoken very well in the community and you're making the rounds. Now, the CAP agency is probably most known, except maybe by your clients, for the food shelf. And I was reading a little bit about you coming to town ahead of this podcast, and you were quoted in the local news as being blown away by the breadth of the services at the CAP agency.
Yes.
Tell us about those other services and what other things you're doing in the community.
Yeah, you're right. I was blown away. I didn't realize, you can read some things online, but when you really get into it and start trying to learn about it all, that in and of itself is still a process that I'm, nowhere near an expert on everything we do. Just got out of a senior leadership team meeting and, keep learning things about what we're doing as things progress. And things are different because of the pandemic, but still doing the same services we've always done. So the food shelf is very well known, and it's a big part of what we do. It's a great thing. It's just incredible to see it every single day outside my window. But we're doing a lot of other things that people probably don't see us doing.
Like what?
We from October through May, we're doing energy assistance for folks to be able to receive funds from the state, and we help manage that and get make sure people are getting the heating that they need. We do appliance. We have grants that allow us to get appliances if people need upgrades to help their home better. So we can do things of that nature. We have an education department through Head Start, Early Head Start, which is a really big part. We serve a lot of different the family members in all 3 counties, and I think there's probably 12 different classrooms throughout Carver, Scott, and Dakota counties.
And what kind of things are you teaching in those classrooms?
Well, that's Early Head Start is prenatal through 3 years.
Okay.
So that's really getting kind of, mother and child up to speed on things, helping them out, getting them, from nutrition through, what they can do to, read to their child and things of that nature that some people need to, hear more about.
Yeah.
And then the Head Start program is from 3 to 6. So that's really those students who have been identified as maybe needing to get them hopefully caught up, so when they enter kindergarten, they're on this level playing field with the other kids that are coming into the classroom. So they're coming into classrooms, 5 days a week. Nope, it's 4 days a week. They don't do it on Fridays. I know that. And they're getting that education. They're getting that classroom experience. They're getting used to that. They're getting caught up on some of those skills. So it's a neat program.
Yeah, and it's so important that kids, that level playing field. You think, okay, in kindergarten, how important is that? When they say by 3rd grade, everyone catches up, but that's not true.
No.
And if you come in and your first experience, kindergarten or even pre-K, is, I don't feel smart enough. This is really hard and confusing. You're going to shut down, and it's hard to get back into the spirit of, I like school. I want to be challenged. I want to learn. So what a great program. So important.
Yeah. It is. And that's a really big part of what we do here. And so it's exciting. There's a lot of moving parts, learning about that as well, and we're doing things as we can based on, accessibility. We've had some districts, have to take our classrooms from us because they're needing more space to increase the spacing for their students. So we've found some other places, and we've got all the classrooms we need set up for this fall. Just signed the last lease agreement this morning, so we're all good to go there. So we have all the classroom space that we need, and we're ready to go. And we'll see how things unfold in the next couple of weeks here with how schools get brought back online.
Sure. So Jeff, I just don't know the answer to this. Where do you have classrooms? Are you looking for traditional in-school buildings, or are you open to, wherever there's space and you can put some kids?
Yeah, they have to meet some of the guidelines that Head Start has. There has to be running water, there has to be, bathrooms and things of that nature that go without saying. But there are some guidelines that we have to meet. But we're finding maybe old daycare centers that might have some good space that hasn't been used. We're finding different things. We have a Hamilton Center here in Shakopee, or it's actually Savage, I believe it is, just down the road on 13, and it looks like a strip mall from the outside, but we've made that work for classrooms, and there's some green space out back for the kids to play. So that's a requirement. We need some spots, so they can do the large muscle exercises. Just to be a long day when you're cooped up. Yeah. So that's really what we're looking for, and we found those. But we're in traditional schools. We're in in untraditional type environments as well. So partnerships with different community members has been great.
Yeah, I was reading about your partnerships on your website, and it seems like that is a really integral part of the success of your organization. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, it just, we do a lot, but it's so much easier when you can get help from your partners out there. And, that can be from the public to the private. So, the counties that we operate in are phenomenal partners. I mean, none of this would happen without their support. There's one of the rumors I think that's out there, and I've heard this more than once, is that they believe we are a county program because it's, we're the Carver, Scott.
Because it's right County. In the name. Yeah.
So they just assume that's, And so you need to try to dispel that and let people know, no, they're a huge part of what we do. That's our service area, those three counties. But the counties work hand in hand with us through a lot of our housing services, through our WIC programs, and through everything we touch really is in partnership with the counties. And locally, I'm learning more about some of the partnerships we have with some of the businesses, even from a financial perspective. One of the stories that I can talk about for a partnership is just people who come out and during this pandemic, and I know times are tough for them and their business, but they're still giving to us. And it's been amazing with the type of support we get.
Yeah, I have been completely blown away by the generosity of this community since the pandemic hit. And people you would assume they're struggling, yet they're working to bring those to those who have, greater struggles. You and I were talking a few weeks ago when you first got here, and you shared a story with me about one particular donor, and people who know me won't be surprised by this, but while you were telling me this story on the phone, I got choked up, and, could have been that I was on, week 400 of working from home with my family, but I was moved. And I hope you remember, it was about a young lady. I think she's over in Prior Lake doing some incredible things. That's a couple. I mean, that story in particular. I have to ask you though, can you hear the train going by? We're a very fancy organization, and we've got a train going by blowing a whistle. So you may hear that.
I don't hear it, but that's all right with me. That's a good sound.
Yeah, it'll be by your office.
Yeah. So this person, Sonia, is a young lady who lives in Prior Lake, and I won't be able to do justice of what she has done for the CAP agency, but for the communities that the community that she lives in, and then even outside of the community that she lives in. She has created her own nonprofit called Sonia's Hope for Children. She's a CAP ambassador, so most of what she does is on our behalf.
Wow.
She does it independent and with our support when we can give it. But, she's doing right now we're doing a mitten glove drive already. So she's putting the word out. She's trying to collect those things prior to the winter season. So we have a box here. People can drop by those items to, and then we'll get them and we'll distribute. So she counts on us to help distribute some of the things that she did. She did a great a food drive this earlier this summer where she did some things and brought a bunch of those types of items, and we ended up bringing some of those things up to the Minneapolis area after the riots where they needed some additional support. Yeah. So Sonia, her mother is great. I think you can tell where she's got this. Her mom is great. She's involved and really supportive and helpful. But the stuff that she does, and she was doing this well before I got on board with CAP. So I'm just trying to carry that torch and make sure we don't lose it, because we really, really appreciate her. Our board of directors has recognized her on numerous occasions about the wonderful work she's done. So it's pretty amazing that she does this at such a...
And how old is she?
She's a young teenager. Yeah.
Man. At a time when you'd assume they're just face down in their phones and only, worried about themselves. No. She's not.
It's amazing. She's a unique person who's got, we all talk about her here at the CAP agency about we can't wait to see what lies ahead for her, because she's going to be doing some great things.
She already is, and that's great. Yeah, I mean that gives me hope, right, for the future.
Oh, and 100%, she's great. I think there's a lot of that out there, and there's people doing that, and so she's just one. But boy, she does a great job.
Well, and hats off to her mom for encouraging that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
She obviously has very supportive parents who are really good at organizing and helping her, because she's a young teenager who's just getting going, and she's been doing this, I think, since she was 7.
Oh my gosh!
So it's been several years she's been doing it.
The heart on that child is amazing. Yeah, I remember sitting in my office and asking you how things were going, and you were telling me that story, and we were talking about how people are just so good. And I know that was one story, and this pandemic really has brought out all of that. Now I want to touch on a couple of things. I want to go back a little bit. But I also want to, before we do that, I want to stay on this thread of the generosity, because I know, in addition to Sonia, there was a group of business leaders in town who somehow got wind that you were short on cereal and did a drive. And
yes,
and again, it seems to be food shelf related. And I do want to come back before we close out and find out where else you need our help. Because
I appreciate that. So
talk about some of the other generosity you've seen.
We had someone approach us and say, how can we help you? And we, he tried to do it through one way. It really didn't work. So he, wasn't to be deterred and got a relationship with Cub Foods here in Shakopee. And they were purchasing pallets of cereal for us. We go through a lot of cereal through our food shelf. And so, and I can't tell you all the folks who helped out. I don't have that list in front of me. There were a lot of not only business owners in Shakopee, but also individual donors who wrote checks and purchased that cereal to be brought here. And it's something we give in every single basket that we give out. We give cereal. So the generosity in this community is something like I've never seen before. I just never have seen it. It's just amazing. So
I say that all the time. I've been here a little over 10 years in this role. And like you, I don't live in the community, but one of the things that has stood out to me from the very beginning is how loyal Shakopee is to their own. And when somebody in this community needs something, they get it. They're met with it, whether, it's your agency, just grassroots effort, like this group of businessmen who were out to help you. But even just, fish. There is a network of people who want to help. And I know, I think you were part of the food drive at, or the food distribution at Friendship Church that's happening on Saturdays. Is CAP helping with that? Yeah.
Esperanza?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I can talk a little bit about Esperanza because they've now come under the CAP agency umbrella. But
great.
We can get to that and hear more about that. But phenomenal. Yeah, we're doing one tomorrow as well. So, and I wish I could tell you exactly where that is, but
well, they can probably find that on your website, right?
Certainly can come to our website.
And by the time this airs, it will have happened. So this will drop on Thursday. So we're taping on Monday the 10th, and this will drop on August the 13th.
Okay, so, good. So
But the point is, you're doing them weekly, and
and we're doing a lot of fresh produce drops. We've partnered with the Shakopee Sioux community that is opening up their parking lot for us to do food drops several times in the next couple of months. And so phenomenal partnerships. We did one earlier this summer there.
Yeah.
And, it's just another example of the community say, hey, how can we help and what can we do? And it doesn't always have to be financially. It can just be there's other resources that are very helpful for us.
Yeah. But touching on the financially, you shared a data point or a statistic with me, or maybe it's like however you want to label it. For every dollar you get donated, you can purchase $9. Am I right on the number? $9 worth of food to give to a family in need. That's incredible. How do you do that? I mean, that's like magic.
Yeah, no, it's our partnership as a food shelf that's with Second Harvest Food.
Mm-hmm.
They have a food, and they have, they're the big food distributor for all these food shelves in the Twin Cities metropolitan area. So through that arrangement, our dollar actually buys $9 worth of food for them because they have their. Mm-hmm. So that is in essence, cash is always better for donations from the food shelf perspective because of that buying power that can't do as much, but some people will take the food, we'll take the produce, it doesn't matter, but that was extraordinary to hear that when I first learned that earlier this summer.
I'm amazed by that.
That dollar goes that far for us.
And it goes that far in purchasing. I bet you do. And to think that dollar goes that far in purchasing, that in and of itself, people could just stand there in awe of that fact. But then if you go to that next step of how many more families get fed, how many more kids have a breakfast, and parents have that little bit less stress because that worry amongst the list of them has been taken off the table. So Jeff, COVID has changed everything. And God, I say this every week when we do this podcast. We didn't want it to be the COVID podcast, but that seems to be the topic of every day, right?
What we're living through.
Right. So things have had to have changed for you in terms of, and your organization in terms of the amount of need and even probably an expansion of the people you're serving. Can you give us an overview of what that has looked like and how things have had to change in your organization to meet the needs?
Yeah. I know I'm more familiar with this way than I was the other way because it was 2.5 weeks into my.
It's going to seem like a vacation when we go back to normal.
The first thing that you notice is that you send everybody home. So we're working remotely, and hats off to this agency to be as well prepared as we were. We had laptops all ready for everybody. Everyone, the IT department was set, and so almost seamlessly, everyone went home and did their jobs, which was just phenomenal. The stress just wasn't there because it worked. Got very blessed on that. When you talk to other CAP agencies around the state, it wasn't that easy. So, the biggest parts there is not having that client contact. So our client services lobby here, there were people were coming in for different programs and to learn more about, we closed that down. So everything is done via video or telephone.
Was that difficult? I mean, do all of your clients have access to that, or did that create, I would think that would be an almost impossible way to do your job.
Most everybody has a cell phone, so they can do it on the phone calls. So it hasn't, and I've talked about that. Is there anything we can do? And everyone has said, we believe we're meeting the needs as they arise. So we feel pretty confident that hasn't been a major obstacle for us. The food shelf, now, instead of coming in and doing your own grocery shopping like they have in the previous week, they go to our client services, put their order in, set up a time to pick it up. Our volunteers, which I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the wonderful bank of volunteers that we have and the wonderful job, pack a grocery cart full of the food that they've requested, and we push it out to the car and let them unload it. So it's that contactless type of thing. So that's changed there.
Sure.
But again, everyone's getting what they need. It's just done in a little bit different manner.
Sure. What about some of the other programs you run out of the CAP agency other than the food shelf? How has that changed?
Well, we have a really large presence in the homelessness population that we're working in all the counties. We own some buildings, and that surprised me when I got on. So, CAP owns some buildings where we put people up.
Yeah.
Some long-term, you get them on their feet sometimes, or some are a little short-term. So a lot of the housing, we're working with the counties to help put people in hotels right now. That's the biggest thing right now. There's our smaller the counties of Shakopee, Scott, and Carver, and Dakota don't have bricks and mortar type of shelters.
Yeah.
And so we're having to come up with different ways to help our homeless. And so we're doing hotel vouchers. Hotel rooms are down significantly, as you probably know.
Yeah.
And so they've been great partners and creating blocks of rooms for us to use. And so we pay for these rooms for a period of, anywhere from 5 to 10 days
Sure.
to help people get back on their feet, get them going. So that's one of the things that we're doing. Our senior services, if we can talk about that, that's, we're doing we did a lot of congregate dining, hot meal per day at different congregate dining centers around the county. And that still is happening, but instead of them coming down to that hall to eat the meal together, we bring the meal to their room, to their home.
Yeah.
And what's grown out of that is a lot of frozen meals that we're now delivering to them.
Okay.
So the Meals on Wheels has expanded a lot.
Yeah.
Just with the demand. So we're giving people up to seven meals per week.
Wow. What a blessing.
A lot more meals that are being delivered to them.
Yeah. You guys are doing tremendous work. As I listen to you talk about how it's had to change and you've had to tweak your programs a little bit, now you're delivering versus having, 100 people come to meals. Now you're going to 100 separate people. Are you in need of more volunteers? What is the greatest need facing your agency right now and our community, and how can we, the general public, the business community, help you? What do you need from us?
Volunteers are extraordinarily important to us. So, you can go to the website and really get a good idea of all the different opportunities out there. Without the volunteers, we couldn't do what we do. I mean, we have literally hundreds and hundreds that we use. It's just so important. So that's important. We'd love to have more volunteers. Donations if there's a particular program that you really want to support, you can just say, I want this for the food shelf. And so that money will go to the food shelf. And we want this for senior dining, senior nutrition. We want this for the homelessness. We want to put somebody up in a hotel for a couple of days. We want to provide gas cards. There's just so many different opportunities you can do. That's always great because there's a bigger need right now. There's people out there. While there has been a tremendous support from the government, I know that's $600 a week, but not everybody's getting that in our community. So,
well, and that ended, and now who knows what's going to be?
We don't know exactly. We're waiting for that to happen, and it has started to pick up in the last 5 days. We just talked about that this morning. And that's only been we're in 10 days after the last payout. So we're anticipating if they don't do something soon, we'll have an even greater need.
And are you seeing people that you've never had to service before?
Yes, we're seeing a lot of those.
What kind of uptick
and a lot of
are
that's
you
done
seeing?
through our drop sites that we've been the pop-up distributions that we've been doing. One of the reasons we brought Esperanza into our program is because they're so good at that. And so, I mean, we're literally serving 500 to 600 families on one of those, and those aren't people that are coming to our food shelf to get food. There are people in the community that we're missing, and now we're able to get to those folks. And there's no questions asked. You show up, we're going to give you food.
I love that.
And that's just the spirit of this.
It's so important. The work you are doing in the lives you're impacting, and you maybe, most of us in the community don't hear about it, don't see it, and don't personally feel it. But I can imagine for you and your team and the volunteers, the work you're doing, the way it's just got to feel great. Like I'm choking over my words here, but like it's something that you talk about, comfort and privilege, and, you don't see past the end of your own driveway. Right. But it's in our community and people are hurting, and this pandemic has pulled the rug out from all of us. And to know that there is help and resources, and, people can feed their kids, and people don't have to worry about the fact that they're still furloughed, and life is going to go on, and we are going to come through this. Jeff, the work you're doing, I can't thank you enough for the way your agency, and I know you're the new guy, but they don't pick just anybody to run that thing. So thank you for committing yourself to taking this job and helping our community.
It's an honor to be here. It's a fabulous community, and you're right. It's easy to get up and go to work every day when you're doing this. It really is. So I want to give one little shout out if I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
We reopened our thrift store. Mm-hmm. And so I just want anybody in our community to know that their donations to that are so important to us because, I know there's a lot of options for donating types of items, but what I wanted everyone to know is everything that you donate stays in our community. That this is money. 100% of everything we make goes back into the CAP bottom line, and we can use it to help the programs that are struggling, the ones that are underfunded more than others. So we're always looking for donations, nice, used, good quality donations that people can come in and purchase. It's a win-win. You can clear out some of your stuff. And we can get it at a low cost to other people. And that money that they do spend goes back into the program. So it all stays here locally.
That's great. What kind of things? I mean, is it clothing, housewares? Is it anything?
It's real similar to the other types of programs that are out there. There's things that you can't take.
Sure.
But that's very few. There's mattresses and car seats and things of that nature. But clothing items, furniture, some of the smaller, we don't have a lot of space.
Okay.
So furniture is hard for us to take. We are expanding. We're looking for a new site for our thrift store.
Okay.
Here in Shakopee, we have got a couple spots that we're picking out, but because we're trying to double our size of our food shelf.
That's amazing.
And so we're going to displace the thrift store. But so space is harder for furniture for the thrift store. But bring it in. We'd love to have it. We'd love to try to use it again. We're open. The hours are on the website, and I don't think a lot of people know that we do that in the community.
No, that was my point early on, is that you have so many programs that are positively impacting lives in our community, and the food shelf gets the most press. So I think that's great, and I appreciate that you're willing to share this. Tell everyone what your website is.
It's www.capagency.org. Pretty easy to .org.
Perfect.
So www.capagency.org.
You've heard it here. Everybody should log in. I was on your website this morning. It outlines the programs. It makes it very easy. There's a big donate now button, donate here. Encourage everybody to do that because clearly you guys are taking that money and making the most of it. So
yes, and my commitment to everybody in the community is to be a good steward of all the resources that people give us, and want to make sure we're putting them in the right spot and to help us all. So that's my commitment.
Perfect. Well, Jeff, we're glad you're here. Before I let you go, I have to ask. Now, it's been COVID, so I know you've been working from home and then cooped up in your office. What has so far been your favorite restaurant to eat at in Shakopee?
Oh,
I'm putting you on the spot here.
Tell
me you're getting out to eat.
O'Brien's, I had a great luncheon the other day. That was great. I think pre-COVID, I had one lunch at the Copper Pint. I believe. What we're trying to do is when we have some takeout, we've had, and I don't want to, Cucina Kitchen, it's up by Target.
Zupa Cucina.
Zupa, yes.
Yeah.
Phenomenal stuff there. So we get some of their food there. Panera's and some of the trying to go more local business. I've told the staff we don't have any group functions where we bring lunch in anymore right now. So it's been different. So haven't been a lot. I'm looking forward to. I've got some on my list to get out to. Turtles, I think, is next.
Well, good. Well, there's a ton of good locally owned restaurants, and you can find them all on the Shakopee Chamber website, shakopee.org. So
yes, it's a good resource.
Yeah, and if there's one thing the Chamber team knows, it's where all the good food in town is. So give us a call. We'll get you there. Perfect.
I probably had my best sandwich of my life at that the barbecue place.
Mr. Pig Stuff.
Yes, holy buckets. I don't even think they're open right now, but
they are. That was good. Don't say that. They are open, and I went in.
They're open. I will get a sandwich from them in the next couple of weeks. Promise.
We bought some.
So good.
Oh, it is amazing. We bought some gift cards from all the local restaurants to give out as player gifts for our golf tournament that was sponsored by Centerpoint Energy. They gave us an obscene amount of money, and I spent an entire day driving around buying gift cards from local restaurants.
Good.
And I walked into Mr. Pig Stuff, and the smell was
right away.
Oh my God. Like, even just talking about it, my mouth is watering. Like, I guess
I
know
too.
what
It
we're
might
bringing.
have to be sooner than later on that
I know.
one.
I'm like, it's lunchtime. We can do that. All right, Jeff, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Shakopee. And I want to thank our sponsors of the Shakopee Chamber Podcast, St. Francis Regional Medical Center. And you heard it here. The CAP Agency is doing great things in our community, so help them do that. You can go to capagency.org and donate or volunteer. Just get involved. Jeff, be well. And when this is all over, maybe we'll get together for lunch in person.
That would be great. Thanks, Angie. I appreciate that. And if anybody has any, can always find my name and number on the website. Give me a holler, shoot me an email. I'd be happy to talk to anybody about anything. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jeff. St. Francis Express Care clinics inside the Shakopee and Savage Hy-Vee stores are now open for patient care by appointment during convenient daytime, evening, and weekend hours. Appointments can be scheduled online or by phone. Visit stfrancis-shakopee.com/express care for details.